Happy Labor Day weekend, everybody. This is Jason from Earth Source Minerals. It is August 31st, 2019. It's about 3 weeks since our last update, and we just wanted to take a quick break, bring everybody up to speed as we wrap up the month. With it being a holiday weekend, I'll do my best to keep this brief and to the point. The main topics for this update will be progress on our production at Garlow Claim 19. We will also update you on the sale of our goods at AIDC. And then if I still have some time, I will briefly touch on some of the other logistical progress that we have made as well. So let's get right into it. Since the last update, Ryan and Olivia have continued to transition the wash plant from the shorter test runs that they have been performing into longer commercial style runs with longer shifts, higher volumes of pay gravel being put through the wash plant, and trying to find where the limit is on how many tons per hour we can process without losing any of our diamonds. To facilitate that, we have been using gravel from that upper shelf that we had done a lot of the hand washing on earlier this year. From this particular pay gravel, we're not expecting high densities of diamond per ton of soil, but we don't want to just run normal topsoil at this point. We ran large volumes of the upper pay gravel that we were able to extract. As we got further into the testing, we started to notice that we did have some diamond loss. We were able to trace the loss to the sand screen area of the trommel barrel, and we were losing diamonds as large as 0.6 carats. So we definitely do not want to be losing half a carat diamonds when we start running our better soil from the excavation pit. So we determined that the reason for that is the extra screening that we had put into the first part of the trommel barrel to pre-screen out the sand. The aperture of the screening was actually spreading in certain areas due to the way that the weave of the mesh was built. And when the weave was spreading in certain areas, it was allowing those larger carat diamonds to get through instead of just the sand. So the solution that we used, at least temporarily, so that we didn't have to shut down and take the barrel out of the trommel and bring it back to Monrovia for further customization, we inserted a finer mesh of screening inside the barrel. We typically don't like to do that, having two different layers of mesh, but we felt that it was a good temporary fix for the rest of the rainy season. And at some point when we have a conversion to a new area or some other downtime, if needed, then we could remove the original sand screen and permanently install the secondary screen that we had put in. So once we put that screen in that first part of the barrel, and we continued doing large volume runs, we were not having any issues with that. One of the concerns we would typically have is when you have two layers of screen, somehow the soil works its way between the two layers, and then things start getting plugged up and a lot of issues. But so far, we've been running for weeks with the secondary screen in that portion of the trommel barrel, and we have had no issues. The screen isn't getting blocked up. None of the gravel is getting caught between the two screens, and we stopped losing half-carat diamonds. So good catch on that. That's the reason we run these tests instead of just hopping blindly into running our best gravels, and before you realize it, most of your diamonds are down in the tailings. During that phase of the testing, we actually did produce diamonds from the upper gravel line, even though it wasn't the really good section that we were hand washing that was in the pit. It was actually just chasing the gravel line up into the property. So typically in those areas, there's nothing funneling the diamonds. Like once they drop off into the pit, they're all getting collected in the pit. when you're up on like a level area of a horizontal area of the land, unless there's a curve in the gravel line or a little drop in the soil makeup for the diamonds to collect in, you're not going to have the high concentrations like we were getting during our hand washing. However, that being said, during that phase of testing, we did produce diamonds. We had about 70 carats. And if you take a look at the video, I'll pop a picture in now of those diamonds that we produced during that phase of the testing. So we had some nice product. We're going to continue chasing that gravel line. Obviously, all those diamonds that are in that gravel line that are dumping into the excavation pit are coming from somewhere. So we are going to chase them backwards to their source. So we'll continue doing that. We'll talk about that a little later in the update. During that phase of the testing, Ryan and Olivia were able to take some video, and they put together a fun little tour of the wash plant. I know everybody's already seen the wash plant. We showed that in the last update. But I thought it would be fun for you to see Ryan and Olivia out there on the site. It's only about 2 minutes long. So I will go ahead and play that now, and right afterwards I'll hop back on and we'll continue with the update.
Oh, I didn't see you there. So Olivia and I are at the plant now, and we're running. So if you want to follow me. This here is a lesser gravel we're testing with that is still produced awesome results. And as you can see, we're loading it now. Over here is going to be our real product that we have stockpiled. It should be perhaps 2 months running time to get through all that. We'll see based on the pace that we go. So today's our first day firing up. Down to the jig.
And that means that everything's working well.
So that video was from about 2 weeks ago. They were finally able to get that out to me earlier this week. The week following when that video was taken, so a week prior to this update, we felt confident that the wash plant was adjusted as well as it could be for higher volumes of run. And we made the decision to start running our better quality pay gravels that was extracted from the excavation pit. So we ran a little slower. We weren't trying to force it through. We ran 4 days with that before we had a clean out. And if you take a look at the screen, I will show the mineral recovery report. On the report, you'll see that we captured 502 diamonds, a total carat weight of 361 carats. This was just in 4 short shifts. We did not have long runs. We didn't want to force the better material through, so we just took our time. We have almost all gem quality within this parcel. It's a great looking parcel for such a short run. You'll see that we averaged a little over 1 diamond per cubic yard with an average weight of 83 carats per cubic yard. Roughly a cubic yard is a ton, so we almost achieved 1 carat per ton of soil. It's a very small volume of material that we ran through the wash plant, so it's too soon to say if this is going to be an average throughout the pile. Chances are it's not. The pile is going to be very mixed from the different areas that we pulled it from inside the excavation pit. But the good news is we built this JV program to be successful and be profitable at 0.5 carat per ton of soil. So in this little bit that we just started running, we're already seeing that we're almost double that amount. So off to a good start. We know during hand testing while we were excavating, we had averages much higher than what this first clean out showed. This is mining, so we can't really predict that accurately. We just have to run the soil to know what we have. So we could run, even within the smaller pile that we have, there could be sections that we're getting like this. There could be sections, what we call hot spots in the pile, where the averages just go off the scale like they did during the hand washing when we were getting 35 carats per ton of soil, 50 carats per ton of soil. We had one hand washing from in the pit where we had over 100 carats per ton of soil. So we won't know until we run this whole pile exactly what we have, but we're off to a good start. After the positive results of that first week of running the deeper pay gravels that we had stockpiled, we continued running those this week. Ryan and Olivia went back up to the site the end of this week to do a clean out, and I haven't heard from them yet as of the recording of this update. I know that they were planning on staying up there a little longer than usual following the clean out in order to have some meetings with our site partner Paul Jones, our site manager Amos, and our chief excavation manager Edwin to stake out additional gravel lines on the property that we had already hand washed some sampling from earlier this year, so that we can continue excavating additional pay gravels. That way, if we run out of the current stockpile before the rain tapers off and we can get back into the deeper excavation pit for further gravels, at least we will have decent pay gravel that we can continue running through until we reach that point. So that is being actively worked on. We are in very good hands over there with our operations, and our full team is pushing forward every day to continue running that wash plant, running gravels through it, so that we can accumulate enough diamonds for the next export and a profit payout to our JV partners. So that is the goal we're working towards. We want to get that as soon as possible. We are not yet at a point where we can give a date for that, but hopefully with each progressive update, we'll be able to see what we have, what value we have in hand, and what the timing will be. So that leads us into the discussion of our hand wash parcel that we exported at the beginning of August and brought to American Institute of Diamond Cutting for proper evaluation, final sorting, and liquidation. We have already had multiple viewings at AIDC of our parcel, and strategically speaking, it looks like we're going to divide the parcel up into 2 sections. The first section is all sub 1 carat material, and Typically, that size material is sent to India, where they can cost effectively handle the really small diamonds. AIDC has multiple Indian buyers. Their primary buyer, who bought a lot of our smaller goods on our first 6 exports, has already been into the AIDC office. He's viewed our parcel. He put a bid in for that. AIDC feels we can get more for that, and he's just kind of lowballing it to see if we will accept it. So they're working on bringing in several competitors for the smaller goods just to push that price up. So they're actively working on that. They're close to having a offer that they feel we can accept. So once that's done, we will sell that smaller goods parcel off and clear that out. The remainder of the parcel, which is the larger stones of the parcel, we've already had several viewings on that, but we are holding off for a gentleman from Chicago that bought a majority of our larger stones on our first 6 exports. He's a unique buyer in that he doesn't take them for cutting and polishing, but he actually throws them into a safe for investment purposes with the long-term goal of allowing them to appreciate for anywhere from 10 to 20 years, and then he sells them off. So what's unique about that is that when he, in the past, has purchased from us, he has paid us almost full cut and polish price, very close to it. Not quite, but close to it. Way more than normal rough price, because he's looking at the long game for it. So he always puts high bids in. We're expecting him to do the same. AIDC already sent him pictures of the parcel, so he's very excited that we're coming back online, and will be another source for him. He loves the diamonds that we produce in Liberia. You'll notice in the clean out that we just had in the picture, we almost always have some fancy greens, some fancy yellows, as well as very high clarity whites. He's very excited to get down to AIDC. Leslie was not able to reach him the last 2 weeks, and we found out it was because he was actually on vacation and he was away. But on Thursday, he reached out to Leslie and got up to speed, and he is going to get down as quickly as he can to AIDC. The only possible delay would be due to Hurricane Damian. We're kind of watching that closely to see if that's going to impact South Florida, Deerfield Beach area. If it is, that may delay him coming in to do the viewing, but hopefully if the hurricane does not impact that area, he'll be able to get in a lot sooner. So we have high hopes for what he will be putting in for a price. Once he can view it and give us a bid, we'll be able to make a final decision and wrap up the liquidation of that hand wash parcel. Moving forward with future exports, we will be able to fast track those, particularly if we can work out a current pricing level for our Indian buyer for the smaller goods, and we can get back on track with our buyer from Chicago. So if both of those come in as our higher bidders, then we can save a lot of time in the future, and we can just work out pricing with them. And as soon as we export it, it can go right straight to them, and we don't have to go through all the hoops of multiple viewings and getting multiple bids in to try to increase the average cost per carat. So this first export's taken a bit longer than we had hoped to liquidate, but once we properly have our primary buyers locked down, that will greatly streamline the process for future exports. We won't have to jump through all the hoops of multiple viewings, getting bids in from lot of different parties, and we can just go right to our primary buyers and get it liquidated and keep moving. So a little bit of groundwork that we have to lay now, but it will save us a lot of time in the future. Lastly, we would like to update everybody that we were able to get our 2 new logistics trucks out of port several weeks ago. We have a video that Olivia took of those arriving at the compound, so we will show that here at the end of this update. They could not have arrived any time better than when they did. For those that don't know, our military logistics trucks are used for delivering fuel, food, building supplies, tools, equipment out to our remote mining sites in the middle of the jungle. So without these heavy-duty 4x4 military trucks, there's no possible way that we could keep the sites running. No way to be able to even set up the sites. During the rainy season, without these trucks, we could never get fuel or any of the materials we would need to any of our sites. So for the past year and a half, we've been operating with just one TRM 2000 4x4, and it has been very difficult to keep the site supplied with fuel. This past year, we were running out of fuel all the time with just one logistics truck. It impacted the building of our living quarters for our staff out there. The only living quarters that we have are for our Liberian staff, and none of it's complete. It's basically 4 walls, a roof. We haven't been able to lay in the concrete floors. There's a lot of work that still needed to be done before rainy season hit. And with just one TRM 2000, it was not enough to keep the flow of materials. So once the rain starts, the roads get bad, and you only have one vehicle. That vehicle, instead of going there and back in a day, was taking as much as 2 days to get to the site and as much as 2 days to get back. And then once it made it back to the compound, it usually took multiple days to rebuild it, put new brakes on it, new suspension. Something always just got beat up on it and would need replacement before it could go back into service. So with all that length of time of just a single trip and only being able to carry 2 metric tons on a trip, you start to have to triage really quick what you can bring out. So if you have to choose between building supplies and fuel so that the excavator can run or the wash plant can run, building supplies don't end up going out. So that's something that we've been dealing with. So these 2 new trucks arrived just in time here at the height of the rainy season. They were so badly needed to keep the site going. So we have one TRM 2000. That's a 2 metric ton vehicle. It'll handle a payload of 2 metric tons. And then we got a Mancat 1, which is a 5 metric ton payload vehicle. So both those are added to our existing TRM 2000. So we've been able to greatly increase the fuel that we've been able to get up to the site, supplies. We were even running behind on keeping food out there for our staff. So we've been able to catch all of that up. The ferry route that we would usually take has gotten to the point where we can't use that for the logistics trucks. There's a section before the ferry that we do not maintain that has basically turned into a truck killer. It's so bad that we've actually killed both of our patrols in the same week, coming back from the site. Don't need to get into the details of that, but we had to, long and short of it, we had to rebuild 2 engines in 1 week in order to keep our personnel trucks, 4x4 trucks, up and running because of that section of the road that totally ripped ripped off bumpers, ripped the radiator out. I won't go into details, but that's just stuff that we have to deal with on a regular basis, especially when our equipment isn't fully replaced and we're using older trucks right now. So we've been having to go the long way. For those that are familiar, we're having to go the Bopaloo route. That's the route that we would used to take up to Henrytown. And when we get to Bopaloo, then we cut over to the east to Garlow. So we've laid out the logistics with Ryan and our logistics department, where it looks like we will use the Mancat 1, which is the larger truck, to run out larger quantities of fuel to our security house at Bopaloo and other supplies. And then our two smaller TRM 2000s can stay together in convoy so that they can use their winches to pull each other through the worsening roads. And they will just do the shorter run between Garlow 19 and our Bopaloo security house, which is technically maybe 20 miles, but it's road that we have not had the opportunity to properly put in yet. So it's taking probably 4 to 5 hours just in that one way in that little short section of road, and it's very tedious. So that's how we're handling logistics. If our ability to purchase 1 or 2 more of these now in this rainy season, we're considering that because if just one of those vehicles goes down, it's going to cause delays again to our logistics supply. So we're looking into that, seeing if we're able to do that within the budget, within our equipment purchasing budget. So we'll let everybody know what we decide on that in the near future. So that pretty much wraps everything up. We have a little short video showing the Mancat 1 and the TRM 2000 just arriving at the compound from the port. So enjoy that video. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time to stay connected and engaged. Thank you for your patience between these updates. I know everybody's sitting on pins and needles, but we have an immense amount of work that happens every day, every week between these updates. We try to get them out as soon as we can, but we also have to actually do the work so that we can update you with progress. So there's a lot more that we can talk about, but we will wrap things up here. Everybody, please enjoy your Labor Day weekend with friends and family. Thank you for continuing to keep us in your prayers and for supporting us. If anybody has any questions, concerns, please reach out to us. Be patient when you do, because we're pretty backlogged in being able to respond to everybody. If there's anybody that's waiting for a response, we apologize. We're not ignoring anybody. There's just a lot that we're working through, and we have only 24 hours in a day. We will get to you. We will respond, and Garrett and I are trying to do that as quickly as possible. If you have an emergency or time-sensitive issue and you need a quicker response, please email us and put in the subject line urgent or emergency so that we can easily see that, identify it, and triage you to the front of the line. Please use that with some discretion. And with that, stay safe until the next update. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.